log into your iStation. Go ahead. Yeah.
How come, I have a question for you really fast. How come our Clever wasn't connecting us for like 3 weeks so my kids
What?
so they can't see their
Sorry. Sorry. Casey's really having a hard time being alone.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely message if that's still happening because that I can't fix it, but I know tech can.
Been connecting with
Really?
Well,
Really?
mine has been like none at all. This last like 2 or 3 weeks, my kids are like, "This says I have 0 lessons," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll just message."
Really?
Yes. Okay. Good. That it hasn't for me either, and I just
Have any of you put in a ticket or told? Okay.
Have we had time in the last?
No, I know. I'm just saying I will if it hasn't been. That's
Well, I don't.
okay.
My Clever, I can't see anything insert. It's fine, but none of my Clever stuff is showing up for them or me. Because they're always like, "I have more than 0." And I'm like, "Here, look at your zero. You have your you're all there's a bit."
You don't? Yeah. Right. But we should have you added because if you want to go in and you can make assignments and all sorts of stuff. So if you can look off of Casey's. Okay, so 0 doesn't work.
Well, it works. Well,
Just the,
that's the thing I was bringing
okay.
I was saying 0% for Elijah and Noah, but not a Kimi, and that's probably accurate for those two. No, you just because you have to relog.
We're missing one online person, but I say we just get started. Is that okay with you? Yes. Okay, so I've included the questions that were, or not the question, I guess questions, but feedback of specific information that you or your colleagues requested. Basically, how am I supposed to use iStation? What reports are most valuable? How does it look in the classroom? What are the expectations? How to use data to drive instruction, progress monitoring. So I have a couple slides that I'm going to go through just to give you kind of blanket information. And then we're going to go into iStation and pull up some of these reports and explore a little bit. So if you have questions as we go, please let me know. Sorry. I thought I was supposed to be in the lead. I did see your face and was like, it's because you can't see me from over there, huh? Oh my gosh. So one of the questions was, what are the expectations with iStation? And I know this has been, I hope this has been shared with all of you, but the program, these aren't numbers that we made up. The program recommends these minutes by tier. So for your most intensive students, 120 minutes per week. Yeah. So there's two different versions. So you can run it for supplemental or for intervention, and we're using it for intervention. So the minutes are more. So when we'll go through it too, but in the report, you have an option to click supplemental or intervention because the minute expectations are different. And with at least now for this year, we're using it to the full capability to see, is this valuable to you? Is this valuable to your students? So that would be why. And it automatically goes to supplemental every single time. And I have to go in and change it whenever I run them as well. So for tier 2 students, the expectation is 90 minutes per week, and then tier 1, 45 minutes per week. This doesn't mean you can't put all of your kids on iStation for 120 minutes if you want to. We have grade levels that are doing that. It's a 30-minute rotation, and they're sending all of their kids to iStation, seeing if it's helping students. And then once you have that working well, then you're able to pull students and provide enrichment activities or small groups or whatever. But this is the basic expectation set by iStation to see increased reading skills with this program. And we do want to get to as near 100% of students meeting these minutes, because we want to know if this program is doing what it's supposed to. We're spending money on it, and if it's not something you find useful, we don't want to be using it. I do share data with principals each Monday with Zern usage, iStation, and a lot of people are uncomfortable with shared data, and I totally get it. There are situations where, for example, in Nampa, I think at the different schools, they had different schedules for testing. So let's say Casey tested on Thursday. She couldn't get on iStation with her class until she had tested. So her data might look like she just isn't doing iStation. So I just want you to know, when administrators share that data, or if I share that data out, we are very aware that there are going to be situations where in math or reading, you're not at that number. And we aren't thinking like, gotcha, look what we found. So I hope that you know that sincerely looking at data is to say, like, where are we? Take a pulse and use it to say, this is hard for me to implement in my classroom. This other teacher is rocking it. What are they doing? Like, where did I miss the memo? So I have a couple examples. During our Ready Gen session this morning, Mariella and Rebecca are kind of going through how they do their ELA planning. And so this is an example from that session. And it was to address the question, how does iStation fit within my classroom? So this is an example. This is not what you need to start doing as soon as you come back from break. And I have two examples I'll go through. So this just goes through some of the suggestions for read aloud, teacher rotations, partner teachers, and you'll see, like, under Monday, I don't believe a partner teacher will be able to get through foundational skills lessons, phonics, word analysis, spelling, and decodable readers. Those are examples of things you could have your partner teacher doing. This was helpful for me because a lot of this I haven't seen or used before. We focused so much on math this year that ELA, I am not really clear on what we have even asked you to do. So this helped me to kind of understand it. And then I plugged in iStation recommendations, because having the tiers, it's not like all of your kids need 120 minutes. So an example of how you can make sure each tier is getting the minimum minutes. So these are just a couple of examples of ways for you to do that. Here is a lesson plan from one of our teachers. I don't remember which teacher it is. And this is how this teacher does it. So this is a 3rd grade teacher, and you can see with the independent rotation, she has all kids get on iStation for 20 minutes, and then she has a timer, and she has them switch to typing club for the last 10 minutes. And her class, I asked those two to lead Ready Gen, because in iStation reports, we have a rate of improvement report where it shows like each tier, and then it shows what was your growth. So all of our teachers did have a lot of growth. And sometimes you could tell teachers are masters of moving those low kids. Sometimes teachers are masters at moving the high kids. Mariella and Rebecca both had the highest growth in each tier. So whatever they're doing, it's working. and I couldn't come in and model how to do this well because I haven't taught this curriculum. So this doesn't mean this is the way. It means it's a way. Does that make sense? And I'll share this presentation with you if you want to look through it. Another question was, which report should I be looking at? There are a ton of reports, and I started by putting like 6 of them up here, like this one does this, but you can see that same information when you log in. So I have 3 up here. The rate of improvement, rate of improvement report is the one I was just talking about, where it shows your growth. And every time your students take a progress monitoring, like at the beginning of the month, so 4th, 5th, and 6th, we'll get it after this next round of testing. It'll just show you how you're moving each tier of students. And this is helpful, and we'll pull these up too, to see, we noticed across the CMO, we had great growth in our intensive and strategic learners. Where we didn't have the greatest of growth is with our more advanced students. And so that says, okay, what are we doing to keep pushing those high kids? So it's good to see from that perspective on where are we strong, where can we get better. The summary report, I'm sure you have all at some point gone in there. This shows the number of students and which student is in each tier. So if you're planning interventions and you just want to get them at that minimum minute requirement, you don't want to have all of them in there, this report will tell you where your kids are. The priority report, so I have highlighted the first 2 because those would be the 2 go-to. The priority report, it lets you see all sorts of cool stuff, and we'll pull it up, I promise. But it shows you if you have students going in and have idle usage. So if they're in the program, I actually was in a 4th or 5th grade classroom, and a kid was sitting there and the computer was like saying like next or something like that. And I was like, what are you doing, bud? And he said, well, my usage is only 53 minutes and I have to get it to whatever. And I was like, well, did you know if you're not actively engaging in the system, it doesn't count those minutes? And he was like, really? I was like, yes, it stops. So in that report, it'll show you if there's excessive idle time. It'll also show you if students are having, I don't remember how they term it, but it's basically logging in and out over and over again within a session. So if a student, okay. At least they're hitting pause and not assuming they're getting their minutes. With priority reports, this one will also provide you with lesson plans. So once we get in there, you can see it'll show you, here are all of the groups of students you have, and here are the lesson plans that we recommend. So these would be the paper copies that you could save as PDF and send home through Class Dojo. You could share them with a partner teacher. It's a great resource that it has scripted, individualized instruction. So we're going to, before we go to explore, I want to tell you one more thing so I don't forget as we're playing. On iStation, I know you guys have like so much on your plates and you don't probably want to get home and like play through iStation and look at all the different resources. There is, when you go to your home screen, there's this little gray card up in the top left, and then there are a bunch of other tabs that you can click on. If you click on see all cards on iStation, it's going to take you to basically this PD portal where you can choose anything that you're needing more information on. So if it's reports, I'll just go there right now so you can see. So this tab here, you can also see up in this corner, you get points every time you click on one of these. I am ridiculously competitive. And so when I realized that, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit through and do all of these. But it shows you just a bunch of different options. So one example is iStation Fundamentals right here. And this has quick videos on all topics. So for example, reports. You can look down here, what type of report are you needing information on? And you can see these are like 1 to 5 minutes max. And it's just a quick video tutorial of how to use it. Advanced reports, teacher features, there's so much in here. and I've explored pretty extensively, and there's still a ton of things that I haven't even gotten into. But this one, if you are trying to figure out something, I would definitely start here and just watch the quick tutorial. So, do you have questions before we go in and start pulling some reports? It'll show up there, but it's really just for you. So when if the computer shuts down, yeah. Yes. Right. Yeah. So that's a good point, because I mean, you as the teacher, if it's your whole class, you're like, yeah, the computers are having a hard time. If it's one student, then it might be, what is this kid doing? And you can look into it. But so let's go through and let's do a summary report first. So over here, one more thing, you can see ISIP on the top, and that's if you're wanting to run reports to see how they're performing with their progress monitoring, so that assessment piece. The instruction piece is where you'll want to check usage over time, all of those other pieces. So we're going to click on summary and then customize. Pardon? Either. So, and mine might look a little different because I have all the schools. So I'm gonna pull, Jenny, do you mind if I pull yours up? You can run this, of course, by student groups, but I'm using this one to look at the tiers and say, who are my tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 kids if I were preparing to plan for intervention. Under options, you can see that, I assume it shows this as well, that you can choose which reporting period. So you want to choose the most recent one. The most recent one does auto-populate. Yes. So are you at this screen? So then summary, and then customize. Oh no, I only know that because a lot of the reports make you customize it first. You can also select critical intervention. So if you're not wanting the just grade level summary in your classroom, you could click critical intervention to see who are your priority students. Not in this report. No, this report is just like your most current summary. So once you run the report, you can see over here the average, like the whole test combined, and then you can see how students are doing by each skill. When you come down to this portion, you'll notice that it starts with tier 3 and moves down to your tier 1 students. So these 4 kiddos on the top, those are her tier 3 kids that she would want to focus on. And of course her 2s, and then all of her 1s down here. It also shows you the specific scores for each student if you're interested in looking at that. I've found that in the priority report, it gives you more actionable data. Like this student is struggling with this specific skill versus just numerical values. Yeah.
Because when I was looking at my data, I noticed that I had some of my tier 1 kids that their score dropped overall, but their lifestyle level increased tremendously. And so I saw that sort of that was based on their vocabulary sort of stayed flatline, but I thought that was an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something
yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So And then I had the opposite where I had a couple of my tier 1 kids that their score increased with their Lexile level. So that was something that I noticed that was sort of interesting to me. And it was the Lexile on iStation, not from that. Well, we haven't done it again. But
Right.
Just, so it was like
based on that. I wonder, because a big part of iStation and how they calculate results is on the timing. And so like each portion, even if it's not like a speed read or anything like that, they time. So if you've taught some of those students to like read, I mean, it could be a skill where they're just not reading at their level.
Interesting, because if their Lexile level up,
right,
and their scores going down, like what do we value as their movement? Is it their overall score, or the fact that they're, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to break it down.
Yeah.
These two, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Uh-huh. Personally, I don't think speed reading is indicative of success. Like they need to have some fluency so they can read to learn, but if they're comprehending content, that is by far. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then she gets frustrated because questions because story. So like with Stacy's permission, because of her dyslexia.
Yeah.
I have another student.
Right.
And so we get through
right. The only thing with that is there's a difference between oral comprehension and reading comprehension. I wonder, my guess is that we could make the accommodation that that portion, the timing could be adjusted. Right.
And so no one had yeah, I don't know.
With the upper grades, I've mostly been in the lower grades. And so I've seen students using content at the upper grades, and I actually was like, is this iStation? Like, cool, I wondered what it looked like. So I haven't looked into it, but I will. Yeah. Yeah. Is there what? Yeah. Yeah. You can also go in.
The text fluency is not included in the overall reading score. It's a separate score. And overall, it's comprehension, vocab, and spelling. It doesn't include text. I thought so.
All right. See, I'm so glad you came forward so that you could help with this session.
If you go,
Jenny's going to take it from here.
No, I'm not. My favorite report is, the student summary handout. And so if you go back to the report thing, and then go, yeah, it's towards the bottom. And then it tells you right there that text fluency is. Okay, I thought it was. Yeah.
For report cards, 100%. Knows what? Oh, yeah. Yeah. For people watching this recording, the standards report is amazing for report cards. No, I love it. So let's go through and run the priority report just so you can see some of the lesson options. You can also, like, this is just keep this in your back pocket for when you have free time. Within iStation, you can create assignments for students. I don't know where it's digital. I don't know what it looks like for grading. They can complete it, but if it's not auto-graded, then I don't know like how much benefit it is. Okay, so priority report, you click and customize. It makes you, because they want to know.
No, it doesn't.
Well, with mine, it does, because I have all the schools. Okay. Yeah. There's also an option where if you have a list of students where an intervention was recommended, you can check off and not display kids that you've already provided the intervention for.
One thing that we do really fantastic is if, like, because Casey and I switched kids, if there was a way for all of second grade, all of second grade, so that we could look at our kids and so that she could pull my kids' lessons when she has them for reading.
Yeah. I know that's totally doable because we pulled, I didn't, but someone pulled our students with receiving special education services and EL students so that we could run a report just for them.
That's the one thing that I'm not even like,
right.
Specifically like need for her. Okay. And I'm sure. Cool.
Okay, I put that on my list too. So I know it's something we can do. It's just how is that going to impact like user friendliness and
well,
how will it look on students? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think that would be really helpful. And because we're going to have sort of fluency between our classrooms, if
right.
we could just be the whole second grade,
right.
as opposed to change every quarter or whatever, I think
right.
it would be a really positive thing for us instead of having to run for, we don't have time to each other.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so we want that done here.
And did you guys,
well, because you share,
did you set it up or did you? Okay.
Well, that's okay. We have a few weeks off. Are you ready for us?
Not it. I'm going to Mexico. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, yeah. Our Zern has that.
Right. Well, I just think that for me, if she's saying the kids are rocking it, well, it's really easy to control our kids. And, I mean, not easy, but
right,
it's easier because you know where they are.
They're high learners.
Harder to move.
Yeah.
You need to know.
Yeah.
So
I will follow up with that one too. Okay. So once you get into the priority report, you'll see up at the top here, these are all of the like groups that are needing intervention. So you can see here like excessive logouts, idle time. So does this surprise you?
No.
Okay.
If they don't have somebody sitting with them.
Okay. Well, it's adaptive. It could be like my 4th grade friend. It'll keep going. Um, I'd have to look at the standards, but I know that it goes high. It could be like the 4th grade student that maybe he is bored, maybe he's distracted. So looking into that, asking the teacher, what's going on with this kid, which is the benefit of having this report. I think also at the beginning of the year, if you have students that didn't participate in iStation previously, being able to see like, do they know which buttons to click? Are they having technical problems? Even with excessive idle time, they have recommended teacher direct lessons. I know. I was like, wow, scripted lessons for kids that have excessive idle time. Okay. I'm going to pull up a different example because I don't want to look at idle time content. So when you look at this, and this would be another benefit of having your classes combined so you could plan instruction, I would look personally and see, okay, like a lot of students are needing extra help with spelling, and I might spend one day of teacher rotation or win time or whenever you can fit it in your vast amount of time. And these are all of the students that are struggling with that skill. When they're highlighted orange, that means like urgent intervention. They're falling in the 10th percentile. So you can see these have the recommended lessons. So I'm just gonna click on this. You have a couple options. You can view here to see like, is this a lesson that I want to keep and use? You can download it individually, or you can add to your teacher library. So if you go through and you want to add for the week, 3 different lessons into your teacher library, it'll save it right there. Yeah. And I'll go through and show you that in just a sec. But it shows you, and this is specific to what the student needs. So you can see it has the spelling patterns the students are specifically struggling with. Even if you don't go through and teach this lesson verbatim, just this piece to know, here's the sounds, the spelling patterns these kids are struggling with, you're able to mix that into your instruction. Yeah. These are great for partner teachers and for parent volunteers because it is so scripted. Of course, there would need to be a little bit of training because you don't want them just to read it without having a little background knowledge, but it definitely gives explicit directions for how it should look. It also has some of these, it'll have different spelling pattern cards, and some of them it'll have the vocabulary they need to practice. And these are great to send home. I normally would say print, but we don't do that, so send home. No worries, of course. So when how about from here, is this okay? Or do you want me to go back one? Gladly. Don't be sorry, that's why we're here. So under priority report, this is just what pops up. And so the one I was looking at was spelling, but you'll see like if you scroll through this way, all of those come up. It'll just take you to the one you select. So then you can go to resource details, you can immediately download it. I just clicked on viewing the lesson to see what it looks like. Oh, yes. Yeah, no, you're not. So what I was referring to is right here. So since this one's spelling, it's bringing up the specific sounds that those different tiers need to work on. So if it was the vocabulary lesson, it would be the same thing. In separate reports, if you ran it by student, you can get like super detailed scripted lesson plans for one student if you want to. It's just in your options, you choose that specific student. This would be more for like group planning, where are the big gaps, and And anytime you have like a group of 14, these kids obviously need it. So spending some of your time that week addressing that would be beneficial. I don't know if your students, if you've introduced CAMI for them to, not the younger ones probably, but to use that to do stuff like this activity without having to print and just have them annotate the document. Nearpod, which we will provide training for, there's an option to do a draw it, where basically you would save this and they can either use a text entry or pick a color and actually do the drawing, and it grades all of that for you. So that's another option to get some of these resources in the hands of kids. This one, you can see it's moved on to the second lesson. So if you wanted to use this and each day spend 10 minutes with that group of 14 students struggling with this skill, you could have different lessons or pick your favorites from the different options. And they have these for every struggling student group. So more content than you'll probably be able to get through. So the cycle is where and you can look online to see like the details of each cycle, but it's where they've been placed based on their scores. So since it's adaptive, it'll show like this student is in cycle 4 or they're in cycle 1. Yeah, let's see which report does that. Say again.
Before we look at something, I want you to show that.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So you can see here, that was the progress report? And this is her specific, Jenny's specific class. So I think it was the progress report. Let me go back. Yeah, so it would, yes, absolutely. And there is the report I was just at. If you click on, make sure that you're going to instruction versus ISIP, because the instruction piece is where it'll tell you that. One of these reports, I don't remember which one, it might be student detail, but you can go in and see the specifics of that cycle. The one that I was just in was classroom summary, which will show which cycles they're on. In classroom summary, it doesn't. Let me pull student detail and see if that will. I've gone through all of these reports, but unless I use it regularly, I forget how to get there.
Okay, so hold on. If you want to get to that point, no, but I'll show you something really cool.
Okay, we'll do that in just 1 second. The one that I have up here, Kathy, this is the student detail. So this shows this kiddo is in cycle 5 and moving into cycle 6. So it'll show you, I know that there's a document in here that'll say like what the expected cycles are for each grade level, but this shows what the specific skills are in that cycle. And this is only available at the student level, so you would have to pull it by student. Yeah. And it's by skill, so you can see in Absolutely. Well, in the progress monitoring, the monthly progress monitoring, that's so important because that's where it adjusts to the students. It continues throughout the usage, but not in as much detail. Do you want to share the?
So just go to the handout. And so I sort of think about the books, and so based on that study, their range, so their functional development should be like 100 below their level and 50 above. So like view carefully is Gavin. Okay, so like Gavin right here, if you go back up to the top, he has like style 745, so he would be like 650 to 800. If you click on that number right there,
Which number?
745L right here. It'll go to the lifestyle, and I'll actually show them lists of books that are recommended within their lifestyle level, and it shows their range. And so, like for Zora or something, whatever it's called, they can actually look for those books, and they're then going to be searching for books. The problem is, I have to find out a way, and this, if we can create this to be a live document. If we had it so that each student had it in their dojo or something, but it was live, so they could click on that. But it's a really great resource to help them find books.
Do you know, like the add to reading list? Can I select this one?
I think that there's a way for us in Lifestyle to have them have it done, but I'm not sure if that could. I don't know how to get that to them. The students have access to it.
Right. Yeah.
But I think this is a huge resource to really get kids reading what
Absolutely.
they need at their level.
Absolutely. Well, and then using Sora and being able to even plug that in.
As a live document and put it, just save it on their own, and put it into Dojo. Then parents can then help them read at home too. I'm not sure how we can do that, but I think it's extremely valuable.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Right, it's completely based on lifestyle level. It's not age appropriate, so you do have to think of that. But at least it's giving, you know what I'm saying? At least it's giving us a choice. It is a start, more than nothing.
I think this would be a good opportunity for your higher students if you don't want them on iStation for the 120 minutes a week, that they do their 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and then they have self-selected text that they can go in and read.
I hate that there's nothing to check with what they're reading, so we've been doing post reading, Lori okayed it, and so it actually looks at like what they're reading and they have to type in transcripts. And so that sort of is checking their comprehension for those high kids that aren't on iStation all the time, and they're able to respond to open-ended type questions, and it's based on their level as well. So, because I hate to, I mean, once they get into chapter books, you don't know if they're really, until you can have that conversation, you can't do that daily. You gotta read the book and,
I like that. Thank you for sharing. I hadn't seen that, and that is fantastic. Okay. I want to share one more thing real quick. We have 2 minutes. So there was a question about progress monitoring. I don't know if it was from this group or the next session, but with progress monitoring, you know, automatically the first day of every month, all of your students, that's what they start with. It'll just force them to do the progress monitoring. You also have the option to do what's called an on-demand assessment, where let's say you're really targeting a specific skill in your student groups. You could assign just that portion of the test to that group of students. So if it was fluency you're working on or comprehension, that's already built in for you. We haven't pushed that because we don't want to overtest students. But no, if you have, I mean, we already do, don't get me wrong, but we don't want to overtest them in areas that we're not working on. If that is something you're interested in for any of your student groups, you can set it up, or you can ask us to help you set it up the first time and use it as more of a formative weekly assessment to see if what you're doing is working. Okay, you have a 5-minute transition. My alarm didn't even go off, jeez. I know. If you have any additional questions. Oh, yes, okay, thank you. That's why my alarm didn't go off. We have 10 more minutes. Rebecca Plant has. She's used assignments, but it's the grading piece where it's okay, I've made these assignments, but now what? Like, what does it look like on the student side? What happens as they complete it? Is there a report feature to look at how they're interacting? So I don't know the answer, but I just learned about those assignments yesterday. And so I think there's a lot of options in here. I clicked on one of these iStation cards because I was trying to rack up my points and to actually learn some cool things. There was one, I don't remember which one it was, and it was a while ago, but I clicked on it and it took me into iStation Student View, and it has teacher and student view, but where you can click on more than just their ISIP or their reading, their like daily online activities. There was a writing portion where it's got graphic organizers and you can add assignments to students. What I don't know is what it looks like on the student side, how you get them there, and then if they complete an assignment, how you see what they did. Oh, maybe I just did. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it was basically like what I looked through. It was really gamey. So it said it was for small groups, but it'd be essentially if you had a teacher that couldn't speak, that you would sit there and play like this gamey introduction on a writing concept. And then the students would be able to just practice and play games, or graphic organizers, which I don't know how they can interact with on this. So I'll see. I don't know more than that as far as the writing goes, but it was really cool and it would be fun to look into a little bit more. Yes, so from reports, so I know I'm looking for, like within various reports, you can click on the specific component and it'll show exactly like they were asked to add the beginning sound and they struggled with these ones. So it'll give you the skill to see like, so for that part, you'll click on that link. It won't be, here's the screen, this is what the activity looked and sounded like, but it'll be, here's the skill. To go in and see generally, you can go in as a student view, like we did at the beginning of the year. Teacher resources, there are a ton here. It's misleading because when it first pops up, it's like you have to search. It just doesn't have a plethora of resources, which I don't like. I like to be able to choose. These are also links. So if you are interested in one of these, it'll pull up lessons specific to that content if you don't want to just do it by specific students or specific groups of students. And then let's say I loved this lesson, I could add it to my library. And then I have this one right there. So if I were using this in the classroom, I might pick like on Monday, I'm doing that group of 14 students with spelling. I would have those lessons right here so I could access them easily, and then remove them from the library after I was done with them, or keep them for. So what are you wanting to? So on your teacher computer, like when you go in, do you remember at the beginning of the year there, actually you wouldn't have seen it. So the primary grades had the option to go to like the student facing login page. So through downloading iStation, which you'll do just with this, and it'll give you a teacher view where you can go in and see the student lessons. You can also go in on the other side and it has like training videos that our primary teachers showed kids before they tested. So if you download this, and I had it on mine and it got erased. You download it here and it's the little icon that students use when they take the test. Say that again?
Look, can I navigate freely? Or do I have to do it?
I don't remember. Do you guys remember? I know in one of the reports, and I'm sorry, I can't remember which one it is, but I was able to pull up a student, and when I clicked on like the specific skill, it had a link and it would pull up like that portion of the lesson. It might have been assessment completion. Let me check. Okay, it wasn't that one, but I'll look and I will share with you. I know it's possible. I just don't remember what the steps there were. Okay, so now we really only have 2 minutes left. So if you want to take these last 2 minutes to complete the learning from this session, like something you're going to use, so that you don't have to do all of them at the end. I know, right? So at the top of this session assignment, at the top of the agenda, it says session assignment document.